Well, welcome to the first CI Forum webinar, something we've been planning to do for quite a while now, and we've finally managed to get everything in place to do it. Hopefully the technology is all working for you. You'll see that there's an opportunity for you to ask some questions as we go along, and we'll also have a couple of short polls or survey questions, just for me to get an idea of the experience that's out there and what you're looking for today. So what we're going to run through, we'll kick off to talk a little bit about what is a rapid improvement event, and then we'll talk about, well, actually, are they right for the problem that you're currently working on or that you've got in mind. We'll talk a little bit about how to set them up, and really, preparation is the key, and how to facilitate a rapid improvement event. They can be pretty challenging. I've just come back from 2 weeks of running back-to-back events. Had a 3-day event, and then last week had a 5-day event. So I'll share with you some lessons I've had from other events and from those two that I've just run. So let's go to the webinar first, just to we'll see how the technology is working, and we'll launch the poll. And the question is: have you been previously involved in a rapid improvement event? So you can just jump in and click on the answers there on your screens as you see them. So have you been involved in a rapid improvement event previously? Select one, no, or yes as a participant, yes as a facilitator, or yes as a sponsor. I've just realised I probably should have set this up to have multiple answers, because you could have actually been all three of those: a participant, a facilitator, and a sponsor. So yep, answer as you like, but at this stage just one. Give you a minute or two just to do that. Okay, looks like most people have answered that. So if you haven't, I'm sorry, but I'll just need to close it off in just a second, and then we'll look at the results. And this will just help me kind of shape the presentation today. All right. So here's the answers. So most of you, 74%, haven't been involved, 16% as a participant, and 11% as a facilitator. So at the numbers we've got today, that's it's probably 3 people who have been involved as a facilitator. All right. So what is a rapid improvement event? Sometimes they're called Kaizen events, solutions workshops, all sorts of names. My interpretation, and it's open to individual interpretation, but I see that, broadly speaking, a Kaizen event, a solutions workshop, rapid improvement event, it's a highly facilitated approach to problem solving. Essentially, the way that I'm presenting them today, it's a 3 to 5 day event where you start off with a business problem, so you don't know what the solutions are. And concludes with an approved and ideally, in many cases, implemented improvements. And if the solutions aren't able to be implemented, they've at least been tested either in a live or in a simulated environment. So we've got confidence that they are going to work. So 3 main parts of a rapid improvement event. There's the problem, identifying the problem and the pre-work, and that's generally a minimum of 4 weeks. It's up to 6, maybe even longer weeks of preparation. Obviously not full time, but you're probably spending at least 10 hours a week, sometimes more depending on the size of the problem. 10 hours a week for 4 to 6 weeks in setting up the rapid improvement event. Then you have the event itself, which is 3 to 5 days, and then a post-event period of typically between 30 to 90 days to complete the implementation and monitor the improved process. And generally there'll be one of the facilitators will take on the responsibility of that post-event activity as well as the preparation. So selecting a problem for a rapid improvement event is pretty important because the methodology works really well, but you need to make sure you've got the right problem. It's not the panacea. It's not going to solve everything. Some people from a Lean Six Sigma background define or describe a rapid improvement event as DMAIC in a week. And I kind of subscribe to that view, although you're probably doing a bit of define and measure in the preparation phase, and actually some of improve the implementation phase may go beyond the rapid improvement event as well. But 7 key questions really. First one is quite an obvious one. Is there a strong link to your strategy? So really we shouldn't be running the event if it doesn't link to the strategy of your organisation. The next one is, do we have a senior manager, someone who's going to act as the sponsor for the event? And I'll talk about that role a little bit later. Is there a senior manager who wants the problem solved? You need someone who's really passionate about the problem. And like I had last week, someone who's kind of been banging their head against the wall for a good number of months or even years trying to solve this problem and just haven't been able to. Okay. Rapid improvement events work well on really tough problems. Next question is, do we know what the solution is? If we know what the solution is and we need to go and just implement it, you don't need a rapid improvement event. You might run an extended workshop in order to learn how to, from the team, how best to implement that known solution. But it's not really a rapid improvement event. They work best when the solution is unknown, or we've got several alternatives that we need to explore. We like to be able to measure success. Great if we can measure during Plan, Do, Study, Act, PDSA cycles during the event, but we definitely want to have some baseline data, and we want to be able to see after the event whether we've really made a difference. So we want to have the data available, or it's easy to collect, and that data collection could happen before the event, or you might actually do some of it during the event itself. That's why we like to have a process that is repeated many times a day. If we can get in, maybe it's an issue with phone calls. We receive lots of phone calls each day. Well, we can start our Plan, Do, Study, Act on those phone calls that are being made. Or in a manufacturing facility, relatively inexpensive items where we're producing, hundreds, if not thousands of them a day is ideal, because you can do some quite quick testing of the proposed improvements. And the final one leads on to that we're able to implement or at least test some of the solutions during the event. Now, some of that testing might be through simulation. You might do some role playing. An event I did recently was in healthcare, and it was just a little bit tricky to be working with patients throughout that process. So we had a couple of people come in and role play. They took on the role of a patient in that process. So it was a very good simulation, close to the true process, but we didn't run the risk of an untested process in a live environment where there was, in this case, a real risk to the customer. So let's talk a little bit about the sponsor role, because I see the sponsor role being really vital to the success of the event. And by that I mean you need a sponsor who's going to perform the role well, someone who really wants the problem solved, and that it's really important to them that the problem is solved. They also need to have decision-making authority over the process. So often you need to go kind of up a few levels in the organisation to get the right manager involved as the sponsor. It can be a delegated authority, but the real power from the rapid improvement event is that you have a defined set of days, 3 to 5 days, and the sponsor sets the expectation that at the end of that 3 or 5 days that we're going to have a defined solution that the sponsor will approve and will be able to implement, if not during the 5 days after. Okay, you lose a lot of momentum from a rapid improvement event if you have a sponsor with the view that, oh, it's okay, I'll take your recommendations, but I can't approve them. I need to take them on to a committee to approve next month. You lose the urgency. The one I did a couple of weeks ago, sponsor came in and said, I'm so excited about having everyone in the room today to work on this problem that I've been trying to solve for the past 10 years. And you've got 3 days to do it. That's my expectation. In 3 days, we will have a solution that you're ready to be able to be implemented into the organisation. So it really put the pressure on them, but it energised the group. They had a deadline. It was a really challenging one, and they were empowered to work on the problem. So the sponsor will get involved in selecting the people who are going to be involved in the event itself and establishing the event goals. And they will meet with the team, and that's not just you as the sponsor, but all of the participants. They'll meet with the participants at least at the end of each day to check progress, give them some moral support, and challenge them a little bit further where that's needed, to approve solutions and to remove any barriers that are there to success. I love it when a sponsor comes in at the end of day 1 or day 2 and you raise some issues and they say, that's all right, I'll go away and speak to that person now and I'll make sure they're up here tomorrow morning to help you with that. Sometimes in organisations, people can defer things and they go, okay, yep, I'll meet with you in 3 weeks' time. And often that's just a stalling mechanism, but we get so frustrated with that when we're trying to do improvement work. If you've got a sponsor who can pull some strings, tell people that they need to attend the event, that's just so powerful to build momentum with the group. So let's talk a little bit now about the participants. You really want to have subject matter experts in the process. You want to steer away from having managers who think they know the process, but they're too far removed from the process that they don't really know what goes on a day-to-day basis. You need the people from the Gemba, from where the work is done, rather than from the management office. Okay, they will be full-time for the duration of the improvement event. Okay, I made the mistake 6 or 12 months ago running an event where it was really hard to get participants in there for the entire 5 days. So we set up a bit of a rolling schedule where someone involved in the process, they would come along for 2 days and then they would have someone replace them from the same area for the next 2 days. Strongly recommend you don't do that because you lose so much momentum. If you think about Tucker's model, forming, storming, norming and performing, you want to work through the forming and storming as soon as possible with your participants. Ideally by the end of day 1, they're working well as a team. If you have people coming and going, you're just constantly revisiting that forming and storming phase. So insist on people being there for the duration of the event, okay? Because they will understand the current process, they will help identify issues, and they will begin to identify improvements and implement them. And they're also the communication team to go back into the workplace, talk about the event and talk about the improvements. Feel free to ask some questions along the way. I'll see if I can answer them as they come up, or I'll answer them at the event, at the end of the event. So the facilitators, they need to be really experienced improvement specialists with a lot of different tools available to them, and they need to have really good facilitation skills. They facilitate the rapid improvement event in its entirety, including the preparation and the post-event activity and the 3 to 5 day event itself. I'll talk a little bit soon about the agenda, but it's not a work out the agenda and stick absolutely to it. You need flexibility. You don't know how the participants are going to react, how they're going to work together, which particular tools might work well or not, depending on the analysis and brainstorming that's being done. So as a facilitator, you'll have an outline of what the days are going to look like, but there's just a lot of flexibility throughout the event itself. So kind of 3 main areas, the facilitation, as I just discussed, and they need to have lots of skills and experience and tools available to them. Okay, and then you need to be careful about your selection of participants, okay, and think about which tools you're going to use to engage them in the event itself. Okay, but a good facilitator will get the group involved, okay, and a good facilitator will consider the tools that are needed based on the dynamics of the group. And bringing all these things together, you have a successful event. Without one of these, the event is unlikely to be successful. So let's talk a little bit about the preparation. I think the preparation, contributes 60, 70, even 80% towards the success of the event itself. Okay, you need a minimum of 4 weeks, and there's quite a number of tasks that need to be completed during that time. You need to do the initial setup, but you kind of need to complete, define, and measure phase from a Lean Six Sigma terminology. Some good groundwork in the process and how it's performing, and you need to set up a communication plan to be talking to groups who may be impacted by the event, either during the event or for the implementation post-event. So how does the preparation work? Now, when I was putting this together a while ago, I originally had these numbered, and it's kind of 8 steps here, but then I realised that they're not done sequentially, and they shouldn't be presented that way. So there's a number of things to be done, but you may be doing some of them concurrently, and some you might need to revisit some of them. Let's talk through each of them briefly. You need to define the problem, obviously, and you'll do that with the sponsor. you want to be quite tight in the scope of the problem you're going to address. Okay, remember we want to understand the current process and be implementing or at least testing some solutions at the end of, well, probably on a 5-day event, probably at day 4 at the longest. You want to be testing your solutions. So keep the scope tight. You need to understand the current state process map. Okay, and you'd have an option of either doing a detailed process map prior to the event or during the event itself. And you need to gather some data and understand how that process is performing at the moment, and work with the sponsor to set the goals for the event. You don't want to be too ambitious, but likewise you need to set the bar quite high so it's challenging enough for the group that they feel that they need to work really hard on it. And I would strongly recommend that you set the goals too high and fall a little bit short than set them too easy and achieve them. You want to obviously communicate to the wider group during the preparation, particularly those areas that are likely to be impacted by any testing that's going to be happening during the event, or as you're walking the process, you'll need to let people know in advance that you're coming through and why you're doing that. As I said earlier, you need to select your participants carefully, and please do insist that they're there for the entire event. You may have some additional people who are there to, I guess, support the event. You know, maybe there's a data analyst who is going to extract some data if you need it. Or you might have some people from the engineering team who will be available to make some changes to a particular area at call. Okay, but people who work in the process and are going to be contributing to the event, you want them there for the entire event. This one here, coordinate the schedule for the team, so you need to make sure they're obviously available. But many organisations, it's hard to get a suitable meeting room. So, you know, coordinating the booking of the meeting room, the facilities, is probably one of the first things you need to do. I found that it's best if you book, if you have the meeting room on site. You know, it sounds good, oh, let's get away and lock ourselves in the room for 5 days so we can work on this and we won't be interrupted. But a rapid improvement event isn't like that. You're not locking yourself away for 5 days. You're in a room, you're working, and then you're getting out to see the work being done and doing your testing and implementation. So off-site rapid improvement events generally don't work well. You need a big room with lots of wall space because you're going to be using lots of paper, post-it notes, flip charts, butcher's paper, printed process maps perhaps, and you're going to work your way around the room. Day one, you'll start on one side, you'll have the agenda, maybe the goals and the problem statement and the process map, which will be a key working document. And then as you move through the week, you may have some cause and effect diagrams, some brainstorming of solutions, some PDSA cycles, some communication plans, some training plans. So you need lots of wall space. And remember, you want a facility that people are going to be comfortable in for 5 days. So if you've got a big room but there's no natural light, that's not going to work for people for 5 days. They'll just really lose their energy. Okay, and as tempting as it is to go, okay, well, we've got this big room for 2 days, and then we're going to have to move to this room for a day, and then we can move to this other room for 2 days because you can't get an entire 5 days. Generally, don't do that. You need to be in one room for the 5 days. And then working with your co-facilitator and sponsor, you'll be setting the agenda for the event. So how does it work? What's a typical event? I haven't made available a set agenda for you, nor do I make it available to the participants. It needs to be flexible. You need to be able to change it on a daily basis, and you need flexibility of the timings. So day one is about focusing on understanding the current process and agreeing the causes of the problem. So when I'm running an event on day one, I will have the day one agenda, but I won't have a detailed agenda for the subsequent days because that will change. I may have an agenda available at a high level for the 5 days, but only a detailed one for the first day. So in this example here, we welcomed people, got them comfortable, talked about the bad stuff that's happening as a result of the current process, and then we'll get into understanding what's going on in that current process by looking at the process map and the data. Sorry, I was just looking at a question. I'll come back and answer that shortly. And then kind of after the lunch break or thereabouts, start to identify the main causes and issues, and then prioritise those. Then at the end of each day, you'll meet with the sponsor. The entire team will meet with the sponsor to talk about the progress. So this is where you're going to talk through the walls, and here's what we've done today, and ask the sponsor if they're happy with progress and are we on track. A question was raised about how many facilitators do you think we should have? Is there an ideal participant to facilitator ratio? I think you need excuse me. I think you need at least 2 facilitators. Strongly suggest that even if you've got someone who's really experienced and someone who's inexperienced, the main facilitator will take on the bulk of the facilitation. But you need someone else there who can, go sort out an issue or work with a small group. I think the ideal size for an event is probably somewhere between 8 and 16, depending on the process, with a minimum of 2 facilitators. I think 3 facilitators could work with a large group, particularly if you want to break them into smaller groups for some of the activities. But regardless of the size, I generally wouldn't run with more than 3 facilitators. So on day 2, it's about understanding what the potential solutions could be. So beginning to design the improve state, maybe doing some prototyping, and starting to pilot the improvements. In this example here, we ran an open home, which meant that on the morning of day 2, and in this example we actually did it on the morning of day 4 as well, anyone who had any involvement in the process, or even anyone outside the process but from within the organisation, could come along at 8 o'clock in the morning and see what had been done. And the reason we call it an open home is it's like a real estate open home. People can wander in whenever they like and they can leave whenever they like. So it's not a 30-minute structured presentation, but we have a couple of people come in, and one of the participants will generally know those people who have come in, but if they don't, doesn't matter. Go and introduce themselves and walk through what's been done and take any notes of any feedback they're providing. Often running an open home, you might have, as well as 20 participants, you might have 30 people coming through to see what work is being done. That's another reason you need to be careful about your room selection. And a side benefit of an open home, as well as communicating with a much wider group, which makes implementation a lot easier, you've got participants who are sharing the work that's being done. So they're suddenly taking ownership because they're going, colleagues, someone I work with, here's what we've been working on, and they take some real ownership of that process. So agenda day 2, open home, quick recap of the work that's been done and see if anyone's had any challenges they've been thinking about overnight. And in this example here, we also had some staff and customer surveys that were conducted prior to the event, and we reviewed those on day 2. And then we kind of stood back and made sure that everyone was confident that we were focusing on the right areas. And we broke into to work streams because in the nature of this event, it made sense to break into 2 work streams. Sometimes that won't occur, but it does greatly increase the productivity of the participants. After lunch, start to explore and shape the improvements, and then come back together as a team and agree detailed improvements. In this example that you're looking at, on day 1, the sponsor suggested, and this was a healthcare example, the sponsor suggested that there was a nursing training session available on day 2, and maybe the nurses who were coming to that training session should actually come along to another open home. So we had the flexibility, and we built that into the process. Day 3, we reviewed the feedback we had from the sponsor, and we started to work on the 2 work streams. So don't need to go into the detail, but they had two names to the work streams. So we started reviewing the work that those teams have been doing, then agreed the tasks that needed to be done, and continue to work on the improvements and refine them, and do some plan, do, study, act on those improvements. Day 4, it's about reviewing the planned improvements, finalising the testing, and completing implementation wherever that's possible, or at least completing a second run of your plan, do, study, act cycles. So in this example, we had the open home, then we had a short training session on reliability or mistake proofing, and wanted people to be considering mistake proofing their solutions. Again, in this example, we had some senior people who were available at 10 o'clock in another meeting, and the sponsor had suggested that they should come along and have some input into the work that was being done. So we had the flexibility to add that session in. Then we stood back, reviewed the process map, made sure, are we doing enough, and are we doing the right things, and what risks are there with the improved process, and how reliable is it? And then after lunch, we agreed those final improvements and did the testing, and then presented to the sponsor. And then day 5, it's about kind of bringing all those loose ends together, documenting all the actions that are needed to complete implementation, and generally that'll be a 90-day plan with reviews at 30, 60 and 90 days. And we also need to pull together training and communication plans. And then ideally around about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll have the sponsor come in and any other interested parties to see what the improvements are that are either implemented or are going to be implemented over the next 30, 60, 90 days. You need to ensure that any other people coming along to that final session, they're aware that it is a information-only session, that the sponsor has the decision-making power in that group. So it can be a little tricky, that dynamic. So what are the keys to success? You need a sponsor who wants to see things done, and they're prepared to support the work of the group. I tell the sponsor that the very strong expectation from the group is that they're coming along at the end of each day for a check that we're on the right path, and to recommend that the final solutions are accepted. Okay, we want the sponsor to come along. Imagine you've got 15 people in the room. They might all have, say, 15 years experience. That's over 200 years worth of experience in that room, who have worked for 5 days on this process, and you're going to have a sponsor come along to say, no, they've got it wrong. You really want the sponsor to be in the mindset that they're going to come along and approve it. Okay. Obviously, if you're right off the mark, they'll pull you up on that, but the expectation is that they will approve it. You want a problem that has some urgency with it, and that you can break it down into chunks. I've mentioned before about the participants. They need to be representatives of the entire process, and they're the type of people who are willing to work openly and collaborate together. They know they're part of the process, but their responsibility is to work right across the value stream. We need to know who's going to be accountable for implementing the solutions, and also to identify very early on, like in the preparation stage, if there's any areas that are no-go areas, that we just can't touch that. Okay, you don't want to spend 2 days developing solutions to find out, no, that can't be changed. Okay, and you need experienced facilitators. So errors to avoid. Make sure you've got a problem that suits the rapid improvement event. Don't just do a rapid improvement event because you think you can get something implemented within 5 days when you know that that approach isn't the right one. Okay, if a sponsor comes to you and says, oh, can you run one of those rapid improvement events and here's the solution I want you to get everyone to come to, you shouldn't be doing a rapid improvement event unless the sponsor is willing to change their mind. You want to make sure you've got the right people in the room, and you're tackling the right problem with the right timing. You know, if you're going to have a huge upgrade of the system, or you've got 2 organisations coming together, you know, in a merger or acquisition over the next 6 months, and the whole world's going to be turned upside down, you probably shouldn't be doing a rapid improvement event at the moment, unless that solution is going to be able to be taken to the new organisation. And you want to make sure you fully consider your solutions. Okay, don't rush into a solution because it sounds like a good idea, but without testing it, and don't reject potential solutions or improvements too early. So Murphy's Law. I actually found out a few weeks ago that Murphy was a rocket scientist, and he figured when you've got astronauts in a rocket, if there's a chance that something's going to go wrong, it will go wrong. So iron out all the problems beforehand. So Murphy's Law at rapid improvement events, everything will take longer than you expect. Doesn't matter how much preparation you've done, you'll always need or would like to have more time. Groups will always move outside of the scope, okay, particularly in day 1 and day 2. So you need to have an agenda, okay, and stick to it, but it needs to be quite flexible. The presentation that you give to the sponsor, it can always be improved. It won't be perfect. That's why it's neat to set up the room so you can just walk them through it. It doesn't, at the end of each day, you don't want to be doing a 15-page PowerPoint. Okay. There will be logistical issues. 3 that I've had. One, tore a ligament in my shoulder and turned up on day 4 in a sling. Had flooding overnight, and we couldn't get into the room for half a day. And one day just woke up feeling really, really bad and dizzy. Managed to get through half of day 3, and then it was working in healthcare, and I had 3 doctors and a nurse tell me that I needed to go home and rest up. I just caught some sort of bug. So make allowances for all those types of things in your planning. If you ask the group for direction, everyone's going to have a different answer. As a facilitator, you need to take charge, and the group will want to address more issues than you want to. Have a parking lot that you can park things at. And everything's going to take longer than you expect. So let's have a look at poll question 2 now. So let's see if now you know what a rapid improvement event is. Let's see if you might be either thinking of running a rapid improvement improvement event in the next 6 months, so possibly, or yes, or maybe it's a no at this stage. I was kind of toying with the idea while you're answering this, toying with the idea of running this at the beginning and at the end to see how many of you might have said, yes, I'm thinking of it, and then when you found out about it, might have changed your mind. But then I thought, actually, that could be the other way around. Some of you might be saying, no, not at this stage, when we start off, at the end and said, actually, now I know what it's about. It's a yes. So some of those things might have confounded. So I'll just give you another few seconds to vote. Looks like most people have voted. Okay, so let's close off the voting and see what the results were. So just 11% saying yes. Nice to see 56% saying actually possibly. Perhaps now you know about it, or you might have been thinking about it before, but possibly. And some of you saying not at this stage. Maybe that's because you just want to know a little bit about it and you can go away and consider some more, or maybe it scared you off. All right, so let's wrap things up. So a quick checklist before starting an event. You need to have the problem clearly defined and have the scope right. Is it big enough to warrant 5 days of people's time, or is it small enough that we can solve it within 5 days? Do we have enough information, data, process maps, etc. available to us? Have we got the right people in the room? So participants to develop the best solution, and sponsor or sponsors to take a decision at the end. To make a decision at the end of each day's session. Do we have commitment from the sponsor and any other senior managers? And do we have some clear accountability for implementation and process ownership? You need all of those things in place for things to be successful. So if you're thinking of running a rapid improvement event and you need some help, one thing you might consider is the Lean Six Sigma Black Belt training. Now the Black Belt training, it's 10 days worth of training with 5 2-day modules with Green Belt training as a prerequisite. But you also have the option of just attending 1 or 2 or 3 of the modules. And Module 3, which is scheduled in early July, is 2 days looking at advanced facilitation skills, including facilitating rapid improvement events. So if you want to build up your skills, but you're not ready for Black Belt training, you could come along to just one of those the modules, and Module 3 is the one for facilitation. For those of you who are new to improvement, Improvement Fundamentals is a one-day course that we're running in Auckland on the 25th of November. So if you maybe want a refresh of some of the tools, or an introduction to some of the tools, and then talk about how you might be able to do them in a rapid improvement event environment, please go to the website and you can book in for that, or actually with either of those, Black Belt training or Improvement Fundamentals. More information is available on the website, or you can just send me an email and I can enroll you from there. Or if there's anything you need a hand with, just send me an email. I'm more than happy to catch up with you for a chat and give you some guidance on the phone. And if needed, we can set up an arrangement where I can give you some extended coaching support or facilitate an entire event for you. So we've got some time for a couple of questions now. If you've got anything that's burning, that's that you'd like to ask. So just reading through these at the moment, and I just noticed the time that it's almost time to finish. When you just reading the question here, when you referred to flowing between the work in the room and the team moving into the work, what tips do you have about setting up the engagement between the teams to experiment in the work with those doing the work at the time that are outside the RIE? I think setting up your communication plans early in the preparation phase, so people who might be subjected to, for the want of a better term, some testing, they're expecting it, and give them an opportunity to come along to the open home so they can see all the work that's been done. And often people are kind of blown away by the amount of work that's done in 1 or 2 days, and they take confidence into the back into their workplace, knowing that there's been, you know, some thorough looking at the process before the PDSA cycles are done. So yeah, to answer that question, communicate beforehand and invite them to the rapid improvement event. And also additionally, maybe there's an end of day meeting, you know, that the teams have, or a startup meeting. Someone from the event could go down to those and give them a quick update on progress, particularly if they're going to be impacted by PDSA in the next day or two. All right, conscious of time, keen to let you get back to work, or let you get back to work or get off to lunch. One other question here that I will cover quite quickly. Can you give us an example of a rapid improvement event that you have done? I've done some looking at cycle times for processing loan applications, home loans and personal loans. Personal loans was quite a good example because they generally have a short turnaround time, like 2 or 3 hours, so you could actually see a process from start to the end. I've looked at healthcare processes where it's moving a patient from an emergency department up to a ward, and what needs to be done and how can we move that quicker. Cycle time projects work particularly well when we want something to go through a process faster, but I've also done rapid improvement events where we're looking at defects, something that's going wrong in the process, and how do we stop that from occurring. So I think if you've got experience in Lean Six Sigma and you've seen a typical green belt project, many of those are reasonable candidates for a rapid improvement event approach. But for the person who raised that question, more than happy for you to send me an email and I can go into a little bit more detail with you. All right, better let you get away. Thanks very much for joining us on this the first webinar. The next one we've got scheduled for the 12th of December, and that's about bringing a change management focus to continuous improvement projects. Actually, how you kind of weave